The Bully Resistance Show is brought to you by Nathan Alfred Insurance, an independent insurance agency located in Vienna, West Virginia. They specialize in auto, home, life, and business insurance. And what makes this agency unique is your ability to shop the market. The Bully Resistance Show is brought to you by Planet Fitness. You can come and check out their new and improved Planet Fitness. Now, I'm a member of Planet Fitness, and they have all new strength equipment. They have tanning beds, rowing machines, and so much more. Starting at just $10 a month, you can join Planet Fitness, home of the judgment-free zone, where members experience a hassle-free, non-intimidating environment. So please, see club or visit planetfitness.com for more information. Now, you can help support the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells as low as $1 per month. You can go to www.patreon.com/Bully Resistance Show. That's www.p as in Paul, A, T as in Tom, REON as in Nancy.com/Bully Resistance Show. So for more information, go to www.davebond.org. That's www.davebond.org.
Welcome, everyone, to the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells, nationally known smooth jazz artist, CEO and co-founder of the Chocolate Jazz Foundation, and the co-host of a 2-hour syndicated radio program called Chocolate Jazz Radio. Bully Resistance is a weekly 1-hour show that's a motivational, informative, and inspirational program. We will have interviews with musicians, actors, government officials, politicians, psychologists, counselors, and just average day citizens. Of course, the topics will include making right choices, never giving up desire, discipline, determination, bullying in public schools or workplace and in your community, bully resistance and prevention, self-defense, jiu-jitsu, and current affairs, and much, much more. And if you're ready, we are. Here's your host, David Wells.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells. My name is David, and today I want to welcome Nancy Solari. She's a successful entrepreneur. She's a motivational speaker, a corporate speaker. She's just an awesome public speaker. She's also a life coach, and she has her own TV show, her radio show. She's got her degree in psychology at the University of Oregon, and of course it goes on and on and on. So Nancy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. You know, before we get started, can you just tell us just a little bit more about yourself, like where you were born and raised, and actually what you've been spending most of your time on recently?
Yeah, I was actually, I'm a Northwest girl by heart, so grew up much of my life in Washington and Oregon, and you know, like so many people, we grew up with a dream, and we don't know how that's going to go. And I grew up watching the Oprah Winfrey Show, and I really appreciated back in the day what she and Donahue and Sally and all those really great hosts, the topics they covered, and just the fact that an audience could come together and show emotion and talk. And so I share that with your audience because just like any one of us who has a dream, we then have to figure out how to connect the dots to make it happen. And for you and for me, we've been very blessed to be hosts of shows. And so there's a lot of color and stories in the middle there, but ultimately in 2008 I opened up my own doors for Living Full Out, a company I created, you know, just to really help people achieve those dreams and goals. So that's kind of the dream and legacy I've been building.
You know, my daughter introduced me to a singer called Demi Lovato. And one of the reasons that I started following her, of course, she has great talent. Me being a musician, I appreciate people that have, you know, talent. It doesn't have to be music either. You know, it could be radio, TV, actors, and just entertainers in general. But she was also in training in jiu-jitsu, which is one of my passions that I love to do. And and when I was reading about you, you mentioned that you were a life coach, and the first time I'd actually heard the word life coach was when Demi Lovato mentioned Mike Bayer as her coach. That being said, tell me what actually a life coach is or does.
It's a great question. So a true life coach is someone who takes somebody from the present to the future.
Right.
So when we consider our life, it's kind of like a pie, right? You would take a whole pie and you would cut it up in slices.
Sure.
Well, that's how we all are. So you're going to have a slice that's going to be for your career, a slice for relationships, a slice for your own personal hobbies or endeavors, and that you can have as many slices of that pie as you need, or it could just be 4 really big pieces if you want, right? And a life coach's job, like I mentioned earlier, is to help connect those dots. And sometimes to connect the dots, you have to let go of toxic relationships or negative habits that are holding you back. And then sometimes you have to work on that belief factor, knowing that what you want is possible, that what other people tell you, expectations, being bullied, even our own insecurities, that they're not real. Fear stands for false evidence appearing real. We feel the intensity of the emotion, but a lot of times it's in our mind, it's not real. So a good coach stands by their client, and we take a journey, we take a walk, and we do measurable goals to achieve that dream.
I'll share this with you. For the new listeners, of course, I go spend a lot of my time in the public schools fighting against bullying and talk about making right choices. And I think, bullies are individuals pretty much that have low self-esteem, that they don't think they can do well at certain things or anything well, and they don't feel like they can add up. And then the people that actually get bullied, their self-esteem is not the greatest anyway. And one of my goals is when I go into a talk is to build their self-esteem. And I'll share this with you. I was even though I was born in West Virginia, I moved to my dad was transferred to a job in Dallas, Texas when I was like maybe 10, 11 years old. And so I was raised in Dallas, but I currently live in West Virginia. And the excuses that people have, it's amazing how kids have excuses, or even adults have excuses why they're not being successful. And it's either their low self-esteem, or it's because of where they live, or they feel like they don't have any contacts or anything else. And I think that I think everybody can benefit from having a life coach, especially myself. And I know that oftentimes we go through a lot of ups and downs where we feel like we're just drowning, where we're panicking when things aren't going right, especially when your primary job is what we love to do. Like, what you do is what you do, and then what I do with music or with a podcast, when things aren't going well, I start panicking, I make really not decisive decisions. And I just think that with a life coach, I think it's just so important. So that being said, we all can't afford life coaches. So what can we do as just ordinary individuals where we can stay focused on our dreams and just live to our full potential, I guess, what I'm saying.
Well, and again, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we can't all afford a life coach. We can't all get a therapist. We can't have that. I do, number one, want to invite your audience to always feel that they can call in to the Living Full Out show.
Sure.
And if they want to go to livingfullout.com, click our radio tab, all the details of when the show is on will be there. And the reason why I do want to invite them to that is 2 of our segments of our show is for people to call in. So I get anonymous callers that call in about anything and everything. So they could absolutely call in, and that number is 800-333-0001, and just go to livingfullout.com for the times. The second thing I want to offer them is researching blog articles or even videos on YouTube. So there's the old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Okay? But
right.
A teacher can be, doesn't have to be someone older than you, doesn't have to be someone wealthier or even more experienced than you. A teacher can absolutely be your peer. It's just somebody who has taken a few steps ahead of you that can give you one or two tips that are game changers. You know, a lot of times when we're trying to crack a life code, or our heart is broken, or we're nervous or scared, sometimes a lot of times we function from a place of being a little bit desperate. Just tell me the answer. Give me one piece of advice. And so the thing is, the good news is, really online, whether that be blog posts or YouTube videos, there's so much available out there. And then, of course, they're welcome to call into my show. And, of course, you're a light for them as well.
Right. You know, Nancy, I have a lot of people that have been actually on the show, and I guess, and they've been through a lot of ups and downs like a lot of us, and mostly they all have been through bullying. And somehow, they tell their story and how they were able to persevere, and now they're living their life, to the fullest, and they're making an impact on people around them. What caught my attention about you is that, you're no stranger to adversity. And, and I was reading about you. It was starting when you're a teenager, I guess, dealing with your parents, and then dealing with your sisters with their situation. And then at, I think, 15, 16, you're dealing with problems with your eyesight. Can you go into more detail about all this, about your parents and about your sisters, and how you actually came through all this?
Yeah, there's so many different things to tell, but I'm going to share 3 that stand out because, the one, and as I share these 3, I want everybody to remember that we all have survivor qualities, okay? So whenever you've hit a bump in the road, or that crossroad where you got to go right or you got to go left, and maybe you made the right decision, maybe you made the wrong decision. The thing is it's that survivor quality, that resilience, that when you hit the next bump in the road, you're going to kind of say to yourself, I've been here before. I don't like it. It feels uncomfortable. I'm scared again. I hate being scared, but I feel like I've been here before. And every time we hit that crossroad in life, we get smarter and stronger, and those survivor qualities come out. So going back into my story, so when I grew up and around 9, 10 years old, I guess one would look at my family and it looked like the perfect family, mom, dad, and 3 daughters. But sure, when you opened up the door, there was a lot of domestic violence in the household, a lot of anger, a lot of shouting. And, quite frankly, there was a time I even had to call the cops, because my dad's anger was really out of control. And, I wanted to make things better, but I didn't know how I could make things better. And I didn't want to do the wrong thing. Believe it or not, when you're 9 or 10 years old cleaning up broken glass on the floor, you don't know if that's the right thing or the wrong thing, or if you're going to get in trouble, even though you're just trying to help. And I take that experience, and then I move it forward to when my sisters and we were all diagnosed when I was 16 with retinitis pigmentosa, which is a degenerative eye condition. I'm in my early 40s now, and it's changed so much so that I don't see people's faces. It's just really a lot of shadows, light and dark, and maybe in the best lighting possible I can see some features of someone's face, but it's never the details, just a little bit here, a little bit there.
Sure.
But it's been interesting because blindness is a disability that doesn't stand out. Unless you have a white cane or a service dog, you can't see blindness. So there have been times over the years. I remember one time when I was selling real estate, and it was just after I had to give up driving. It's a whole other story, but I made the decision that I just didn't know if I could see well enough to drive anymore. So I started taking the buses. And I was a top producing realtor at the time, so I really had to not lose the momentum of keeping up with my clients. So I would take anywhere between 2 to 12 buses in a day. And of course, I had to dress up. I had to wear a suit and have my briefcase. And, I was just doing the best I could with my disability. And I remember one time being on the bus, and this lady who probably felt that I had all the money in the world because I looked the part. I was just going to a meeting, and she, believe it or not, she turned to me and she was yelling at me for being on the bus, and why are you on the bus? And it was just an odd experience, but I realized, again, she had no idea who she was talking to, okay? Sure. And then the last thing I'll do is when push it forward one more time. When I was in the music industry in my early 20s, I was recording an album and had a couple of different scenarios where sexual harassment came into play. And I remember one time as I was at our producer's house, and people were doing way more drugs than I'd ever seen, and these people were not my people. Yes, they were musicians and artists, and yes, these were people that represented really well-known singers. I went in the bathroom, and at this time I saw a little bit better. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, these are not your people. You know, right. You're a girl from Oregon with a dream, but it doesn't mean you have to be with these people to get there.
That's right.
And I happily packed up that dream and went on to my next one. You know what I mean? Right. So I guess the moral of the story is you have to really use that internal compass inside you, that moral compass, and let that be your guide.
Wow. You know, I after reading all about you, I consider you a very successful entrepreneur, and from the time that you started the radio show, the TV show, the public speaking, has there ever been a time where you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is just not going my way, and you're thinking, okay, I need to maybe change something, or I just might need to go ahead and do something different? Has there ever been a time like that, or did you just say, or did you just know this is what I'm called to do? This is my gift, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. I'm going to go ahead and persevere. I mean, have you ever been in situations like that since you've actually started full blown as a public speaker and with your radio show and TV show?
Absolutely, absolutely. I almost feel like you've been in the office with me today, because that happens on a daily basis, and that's just a life thing, right? Mm-hmm. But absolutely. I mean, I remember as I was going along in my speaking career, and they kept wanting me to speak longer and longer and longer, and I can't see note cards. I can't see my PowerPoint behind me, and quite frankly, this one group, it was kind of a 4-hour gig or nothing. And I was like, I guess I'll do the 4-hour gig. But gosh, how am I going to stay on track for 4 hours? I had enough to say, but how would I tempo that? And so sometimes in life you have to get creative. I got creative. I went to a craft store in my local area called Michael's. I got these cardboard little divider things. I had about 10 of them. And then I went down the aisles with one of their customer service reps, and I explained to her kind of my story, and we found little trinkets. So if I was telling a story about being in Paris, we found a little Eiffel Tower ornament. Or if I was telling a story about, trusting my faith, we found a little teeny cross. So as I was doing that presentation, I didn't have to be worried about, am I going to, do I need to state a script? There was no script. What I did is I just knew how long each of my stories took. I had 35 little mementos. And at the end, when I got done, I turned to my assistant and I said, did I go over? And she goes, you're 2 minutes before the 4 hours. 2 minutes. And so that was actually impressive. And I was worried. I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to keep up? But actually, the charm of that whole thing was that the audience was with me. They were entertained by how I had all these little items. And then the only other thing I'll share with you also is, in my world, there's so much that I need to read, so much that I need to listen to, or if I could watch, like a video. And a lot of times, being the visionary of Living Full Out, I may not do it all, but I'm the founder, I have to kind of take in all this information, and it's hard. And so I've had to really rely on a lot of low vision devices. Most everything in my world talks, so my computer talks to me, and it reads out my emails, and it reads out things that I'm writing, or every device. Gosh, my phone, my scale, if I want to weigh myself in the morning,
sure.
Everything talks. And the reason why I mention that is because I don't have the time in my day to fiddle around and have a pity party. And I also don't have the time in my day to give up. Because when you're meant to do something in life, and this could be being a good mom or dad, this could be being a teacher, this could be being a host or being a manager of employees. When you're meant to do something, if you don't show up, those other people miss out. So when I wake up in the morning, the day may not go as planned, but I know that I need to show up to give someone else that relief.
You know, I was doing an assembly maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I was going through just a real bad time where, I'm thinking, I was a few months back, my wife had a heart attack, and it was one of those. She's in her early 50s, and she walks and she eats right and everything else, and it was what you call a widowmaker, and it was really. I remember my son calling me on the phone, and his voice was quivering a little bit, and he said, "Dad, I just want you to know that they're taking Mom to the hospital in an ambulance, and she's had a heart attack." And so I stopped the tour, and I drove all the way to the hospital, and we were sitting there, to make a long story short, and we figured out that I was been on the road for 18 years. And, since you've been in the music business, we go through a lot of ups and downs just because of the industry itself, how it changes, how people listen to music, how they buy music. And it seems like I was just, I was at my wit's end about just quitting. And then I was thinking, what, this is what I'm called to do. I'm making an impact. I'm telling these kids my story. And I said, going back to the assembly, I was telling them, I said, what, when things get rough, either at home, when things get, not going our way at school, when we're not making the grades we want, or things aren't going our way, music or in sports, it's the easiest thing for us to do, for anybody to do, is quit. Anybody can quit. And it was just, but it's as an entrepreneur, as myself, it seems like the times are becoming frequent of me thinking, gosh, I don't know how much longer I can do this, because being on the road for 18 years is a lot. And so that I guess we all go through a lot of ups and downs with things that we love to do.
Yeah, I honestly, what I would say about that is I think it's about remembering why you did it in the first place. And for you, that's why do you do music? What was, what is it about the environment, the camaraderie in the venue? What is it, what was that one song that really was the first one or the second or the third that you were the most proud of, or singing a cover of somebody who, inspired you to want to get into music in the first place? And I think for any of us, it's just always remembering, why do we have the passions we have? Why did we create the families we created? Why do we have the friends we have? And but they're in that why is the answer. And sometimes you just have to, press the pause button on the remote of life and say, pause. I'm going to pause life and reflect.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I want to focus. I meant to get into with the bullying. In your personal opinion, or what you know about bullying, do you personally feel that bullying is getting worse or getting better nationwide? It's a good question, because I think due to social media and the need for people to keep up, keeping up with the Joneses, or people that pretend that they're something they're not, I just think if people could be more real, more authentic, then it would be a much smoother ride. And that's even true back in the day when we were in high school, right? There's always that bully. Sure.
And the people they pick on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we could only follow that bully home, when they open their door, what environment do they live in? Like, they're strong outside in the world, but who are they behind closed doors? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or the bully of the office. They get in their car, they drive home, but is anybody waiting for them? Probably not. or they go home and they bully other people. But honestly, at the end of our life, we have to be able to look back and be proud of who we are and what we did. And for those that are being bullied, though, I just want to say that they are my heroes, the people that get picked on, because, boy, are they resilient. Sure. Are they survivors? Because it would be so easy to say, I'm not going back to school.
Right.
I'm not going back to the office. I quit. Right. But when I see a lot of people that are getting bullied, they still show up.
Right.
They take it, and then they try to grow from it.
Right. You know, in the last 8 or 10 days, there's been 2 teenagers that have committed suicide, and where they say it was due to bullying. One suicide was at a school where I did an assembly, which was about maybe 45 minutes from where I lived. And then I had a friend where I did a concert about 3 hours away said that there was another, where I did a concert, there was someone else that was, one person was 16, the other one person was 14, and they committed suicide. You know, West Virginia is ranked in the top 10, and I've said this over and over in regards to bullying. But my question to you, we have these kids that have committed suicide. I mean, how do kids go so far to take their own life? I mean, and what I'm saying, is it because of being bullied, or is it more of a mental illness? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's honestly feeling like it's going to be a life sentence. If you feel like you're always going to be bullied in life, you're always going to be the underdog, you're never going to have enough money, you're constantly going to struggle. A lot of times people say, what kind of life is that?
Sure.
What did I do wrong? Right? But the thing is they have we can't see in the moment when we're stuck, when we're sad, when we're hopeless. It's hard to see that light. It's hard to see if it's ever going to get better. And that loneliness, you know, feeling like, oh gosh, if I disclose this to other people, they're going to judge me. Right. They're going to make fun of me. You know, I'm already feeling low. They're going to look down on me even further. It's that gray cloud that makes people want to check out.
Right.
But that's why it's really important for all of us to watch other people. It could be a stranger. It could be that cashier at the supermarket that checks you in and out every week when you buy your groceries. It could be a student. It could be a friend, a coworker. If somebody, like a flower that kind of wilts over, you know, if they feel like they're a wilted flower and you just see that their mood's a little bit different, it's really important not to just do the surface. How are you doing today? Right? Chipper, right. Chipper, right? Because what are you going to say back to that? If you're that wilted flower, you're not chipper. You have no answer to that. But if you go up to them and say, you know what, I just want to give you a hug. I don't know if anybody has told you today how proud we are of you and how much you do here. I just want you to know that. And I really think that we have the ability to give a compliment to one person a day. I even challenge your audience, you know, shoot to the moon, right?
Sure.
Give as many compliments away as you can. Because that little gift, your hair looks nice today, or what a great blouse, or, you know, thank you so much for showing up on time. All those little things make people want to do more and keep going.
You know, I was just thinking back. I did an interview with she was a junior in high school, and she was bullied since she was, in elementary school and throughout middle school. And it was one of those situations where, you know, the administration, the parent knew about it, of course, so there was some communication between the daughter and the parents, which is a good thing. And but the parent addressed it to the administration, and then it got better for a while, and then it sort of, you know, started getting worse. And what she did, and then there's a reason why I'm telling you this, but she started a program. I forgot what it was called, Praying or something like that, and like BRING, and it was maybe 4 or 5 kids that put the support group together, working with a counselor, where they would meet like once a week, and which I thought it was a great idea. And the reason why I'm saying this is this. They said that 85% of all bullying that takes place, there's no intervention. When I first heard that, Nancy, I was thinking, okay, obviously then the teachers aren't intervening, or the administration's not intervening, or the parent is. But what's happening is that the kids aren't getting involved. When they see something, bullying happens, I think they want to do something about it, but then they're probably thinking, okay, what are the repercussions of this? Am I going to be rejected now, or am I going to get bullied? That all being said, putting yourself in somebody's shoes that's getting bullied, if it's 10, 18 years old, or gosh, even 30 years old, how would you deal with getting bullied? I mean, how would you resolve it?
Well, I actually really like the whole story that you just shared about that program. And, you know, I guess what I want to say about that question is, it's such an awkward. Many of our decades of our life are awkward, right? Sometimes you're awkward when you're a little kid because, you know, maybe you're shy and, you know, maybe you just haven't found your rhythm yet. Right. You know, you're awkward as a teenager or even college because, you know, you might not be athletic enough, or the pretty one, or, you know, whatever. And then, you know, even as you go along in 30s, 40s, and 50s, in the working years, you know, there's a lot of competition there. And then even when you're older, right, there's competition there. So where I'm going with the whole thing is I love that you gave that example. And I think that it does have to happen with the students. They have to take the reins. But sometimes it's hard to figure out what does taking the reins look like. And if somebody has the ambition, the desire to start a program, then that's fantastic. But what you might also want to look at, for everybody listening, is what local in-person programs are available or online. And they could be personal development. They could be image. You know, half of the time people are just trying to figure out, what is my image? You know, am I supposed to look like another person? Do I need to have a certain clothing type to fit in? Sure. It's about exploring and finding out who you are. Or, you know, even sports, you know, it's about finding out what is that one or two things that you can do well. It might not be football. It might not be tennis, right? Mm-hmm. But maybe, gosh, I'm really good at badminton, or I'm really stellar at foosball. Even the silliest things, sure, you can say, I am good at it, right? So I think what we want to do is inspire our students, our children, but even adults, right? Because we're big kids, right? Sure. It's about inspiring us to find our lane. What can we be good at? You know, painting, technology, a foreign language, cooking, you name it. So it's no longer about being a carbon copy of someone else or keeping up with someone else. It's about finding an original within yourself.
So what you're saying, define yourself. In other words, you're building confidence within yourself. Yes. Is that right?
Yes, but you have to find yourself by trying things. You know, getting out there. Mm-hmm. And
I think that is the biggest key. Even though it might be, not genuine, I think that it's so important that kids be confident. I've talked to so many people, and kids can just pick up on just looking at somebody, and if they see another student walking down with their head down, you know, just being really scared about everything, they're prey. I mean, they're prone to get bullied. That's the way it is. But if they walk up high, I mean, with their face up or their chin up, with confidence and, you know, recognizing everybody, I think that is probably some good advice. I think finding your talent, your purpose, you know, and then because you're confident in that, you know, and then I don't know, confidence.
And I also think humor has something to do with it. Yeah. And I'll even share an example. Just yesterday, I was on a plane, and it was a very small charter plane, and I met this gal, and we were talking, and being legally blind, you know, I can't necessarily see the flight attendant, and I guess the announcer, the recording came on that talks about, you know, using the air mask and all this, and I didn't realize, because I just couldn't see her, that the lady was standing there doing demonstrations along with the recording. So I turned to the gal next to me, and I was talking to her and just kind of having a chatty conversation, but I didn't realize that was happening. And the reason why I share that story is, thankfully, the gal talking to me was able to pat her eyes and convey to the other person that I didn't see. I would have felt so bad if that other person had walked away all day thinking, well, that girl was rude. Now, the reason why that's important is because we all don't know what each other are dealing with. Right. Somebody's dealing with a broken heart. Somebody's dealing with social media pressure. Somebody has domestic violence in their home. And so the only way to pull back the onion, to really go through the layers, is to ask and just, be of support for another person.
Well, I want to do a couple things, but first of all, I want you to just take this time and just to talk. And we have listeners that have been bullied. A lot of students. What advice can you tell them? Just to get them through the remaining of the school year.
Well, the good news is the school year will end. Oh, but then it's going to start again, right? And so I have to be honest that as it ends, it's going to start again. But what I want everybody to do is I want you to do your best every day, meaning that everybody who is being bullied is going to be at different levels of survival. For some people, they can barely breathe. They hate school so much. For others, they're eating alone because they don't want to get picked on, or they go somewhere else because they don't want to even be around out in public. And so just do the best you can and show up every day, get a good education, study hard, because it's not, the saying is knowledge is power, and it really is, because when you study and you learn, your world gets bigger and bigger than the bully's world. And I really believe that an education can be one's ticket out of a negative situation.
Wow, that's good.
And if you're not scholastically smart, then try to find some other avenue. Volunteer outside of school if you can. Something just to help make yourself stand out. Then I want you to take this summer, and I want you to find things about yourself that you've never tried before. And have somebody do it with you that you trust. Could be a parent, could be a friend, could even be a teacher who are you're friends with. And just say, you know what, I'd really like to take this summer to try a couple sports out. Or, would you be willing to go shopping with me? I'd really like to try to find a new style for the new year. Or, I'd like to go back to the school year and have some jokes, and I'm the worst at it. Well, take on learning one joke a week, right? You're going to go back super funny after 2 months of jokes. So I really believe sometimes, remember that remote control, right, of life where we hit that pause button?
Sure.
I really believe that students in the summertime, it's a time for them to hit the reset button, hit the pause button, whatever you want, and learn and grow. And the last thing I want to give them in terms of advice is just be authentic and be true. And, if there's elements of who you are that somebody is picking on you about, I want you to go online and find somebody who is a positive representative of that. And what I mean by that is, let's say somebody has a scar. Let's say somebody has, burn scars or a disability. A lot of times, if you go online, you will find other people who have that same scar, who have that same disability. And it's inspiring to see someone like ourselves out there doing a great, amazing things.
Sure.
When I learn about other blind people who, some people climb mountains and they do all sorts of things, right? that says to me, wow, then I can do more.
Right.
And so that would be my advice for the students.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I want to go ahead and wrap up, but one of the things that I do before I wrap up a show is I ask the person that I'm interviewing what I call super questions. Now, I know this is, I didn't tell you about this, but just do the best you can. I'm going to ask you a question. You can just give me a short answer, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so What's one word that best describes you?
Courage.
Boy, that's the truth. What is one of your biggest pet peeves? This could be within the business, within your business, or it could be family. It could be anything. But what is one of your biggest pet peeves?
Whiners. People who whine.
Okay. Next question. What natural gift would you most like to possess? Natural gift.
I think if I had a little bit more physical ability, like I don't love to run, but I admire people that do, right? Or just some people are so physically talented. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Right. Now, next question. Who is your favorite band of all time?
Favorite band? I would actually say that Lionel Richie is my favorite singer with the Commodores, but even on his own. In fact, I named my service dog Lionel Richie. And then I would also say I'd also say Whitney Houston, rest in peace. But she got me through a lot of hard times when I was younger, through my parents' divorce, through a lot of the bullying that I went through. Right. A lot of the Whitney songs were what got me through.
You know, Nancy, I tell you what, I go to sleep listening to Lionel Richie. And then Whitney Houston, of course, and then we were just in Vegas. The family was in Vegas a couple weeks ago, and Celine Dion was there. Of course, you know, it was one of those situations where we couldn't afford the $150 a ticket. But anyway, she's another of my favorites. But last question: tell me something true that almost nobody agrees with you on.
Something that is true that no one agrees with me on. You know, sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes I can be shy, or sometimes I can be uncertain, and that's a lot of times due to my vision, not being able to see, and so I have to kind of take it in with my what I hear, what I smell, maybe what I taste,
right.
And then I get more confident. But then a lot of people look at me and say, well, she hosts her own show, she leads her own company, and, you know, I'm confident once I'm secure,
sure.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, if you don't mind, can you tell us one more time on how people can connect with you? I know that I was on your website several times, and I know what I loved about yours is that website can take you anywhere you want to go, you know, from YouTube to your radio show and everything else. But again, go ahead and tell everybody how to get in touch with you or get connected with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So they can go to livingfullout.com, and you're right, that's kind of the hub of everything. But one of the things that I learned a long time ago, and again, being visually impaired, this all goes into play, is we try to meet people where they are. So like being visually impaired, I am a more auditorial learner. That's why I love music, or I like videos. I listen to them. I can't see them, but I listen to them.
Sure.
While other people need to read and take information in. So when you go to our website, we do have blog posts that educate you and motivate you, and then there's videos that will inspire, and we really try to give tangible life coaching tips in the videos as well. Of course, you can go to all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, and one of the things we take a lot of pride in is we very rarely ever talk about ourselves. We're storytellers, so we try to tell stories of resilience. And the biggest thing is, if somebody in your audience has a compelling story or knows somebody that does, we would love to hear from them. We'd love to tell their story, whether we have them on the radio show or maybe we tell their story via social media. So they can reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com and share their story, or they can call us at 310-909-7800.
Awesome. Well, that's about all we have for the Bully Resistance Show with David Wells. Before we go, I want to thank, again, all the sponsors for supporting the Bully Resistance Show. Also, I want to encourage all of the listeners, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, you can go to www.davebond.org, and you can subscribe there. So until next time, thanks for listening.